How to flip a house for the first time. By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly what steps to take to flip your very first house. From finding the right property, to funding that property, to fixing that property, and then selling that property for a profit. So if you're getting ready to flip your very first house, this video is gonna be for you. I'm gonna walk you through everything I wish that we knew before we did our very first deal 20 years ago. I flipped over 1,200 houses and counting, but our first one, I had no idea what I was doing. So if you wanna skip the mistakes and flip smarter, stay with me. Flipping your first house, no doubt, can feel overwhelming. In this episode, I'm gonna break it down step by step so you can get started with clarity and confidence. So remember these 4 F's: find, fund, fix, and flip. That is the backbone to a flipping business. Let's start with the first one, finding a deal. I want you to focus on finding off-market deals. So many people try and find deals on the open MLS, they try and go to auction sites, and while those might be good, you might find a deal. In today's market, if you're not finding off-market deals, you're not finding deals, you're just finding properties. And you don't want to flip properties because anything that's a retail price is not a good flip. So get really good at finding off-market deals. I want you to focus on motivated sellers. These are people that have to sell their house for a certain reason. They are under pressure. They owe back payments on their mortgage. They owe back taxes. They are going through a divorce. They've got medical problems. Someone passed away and they've inherited this house. These are what's called motivated sellers. If you focus your efforts on motivated sellers and off-market motivated sellers, you're going to drastically increase your chance of having the right house to flip. Remember, a successful flip starts when you buy the house right in the first place. But to do that, you have to find someone who's not wanting to sell at full retail. They want the ease of selling to someone who's going to flip a house. That's where you should focus in the find section. Look, this process can take a few weeks or a few months to find the best deal. Do not overestimate the power of old school finding of deals. As a matter of fact, do something that costs you nothing. When you drive home next time from school, from church, from work, whatever you do, go a different way. Go down different streets. Look for vacant houses that look like they're vacant. You can always tell because newspapers are piling up, the mail's overflowing, the lawn's growing up, there's notices on the door. That's a vacant house. You know what you do? Get out and talk to the neighbors. Just see what they have to say about that property. Tell them that you like to fix houses in the neighborhood and you want to know if they know anything about that house. And most nosy neighbors know a lot about a vacant house in their neighborhood. That's a very simple way to find an off-market deal that no one else knows about. Yes, there's lots of technology out there and we offer that as well. But the truth of the matter is, good old-fashioned door knocking can get you really far in this business. It's how we started and we still do it today. Step 2 is funding the deal. Now, most people say, well, Glenn, I don't have a lot of money. Well, I don't want you to have a lot of money to fund a deal. I want you to focus on OPM or other people's money to do your deals. How do you do that? Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. One way might be creative financing, striking up a deal with the seller to be your bank. Maybe you can do what's called a subject to, and you take over payments from somebody on their mortgage. By the way, we have a ton of videos on our channel that goes over all this stuff in great detail, so go check it out and learn how to do a lot of creative financing deals. Next, you can do what's called hard money lenders. That's people that loan money to house flippers and they charge more, yes, for what they do. They're taking a higher risk, but there's money available to you. They're concerned more about the deal than they are about your credit. Your credit is a factor, but it's not the main factor. The better the deal, the sweeter the deal you can get. And the more experience you have as a flipper, the better rates you're going to get. So hard money lenders is a great way to do it. Private money. We use private money in our business, and it's the best thing that we ever did was to start to have private lenders. Private lenders are just individuals that we meet, that we know, family, friends, friends of friends, family of friends. And those people have money set aside, maybe 100 grand, maybe 200 grand. They have an IRA, they have an old 401k. We can help convert that to what's called a self-directed IRA. Again, on our channel, you can learn a lot more about self-directed IRAs, but you can help people become investors with you, and they've got money sitting around. You may say, I don't know anybody with money. Well, you might be surprised. The ones who look like they have money usually don't. It's the quiet people that you'll be surprised how much money they have sitting in their checking account right now. But just simply by asking, you can find people that will loan you money on your deals, and that's private money. The best thing you can do in the funding section is to have a tremendous amount of ways to fund your deals in your toolbox. Because every situation is going to lend itself to a different possibility. And the more ways you know to fund your deal without using your own money, the more deals you can secure and lock down. So get really good at learning ways to fund your deals. I want you to focus on OPM or other people's money. That's the way you're going to have to do it to scale. So if you don't have a ton of cash in the bank, it's okay. You're not going to use it anyway. I do over 100 deals a year and I don't use any of my own money to fund those deals. I use private lenders primarily, sometimes hard money if I need to. And that's how I fund all of my deals. Now you say to yourself, I don't understand. You got to make sure you understand this. At the closing table, cash does need to change hands. The seller's going to want to get cash, but again, it's not going to be your money. It's someone else's money they've loaned to you and they get interest for loaning that money to you. That's how you fund deals. So have as many ways to fund as humanly possible. That leads us to the next F, which is fix. So now you found it, you funded it, now you have to fix the deal so you can sell it. The biggest tip I can give you is do not swing the hammer yourself. If you think you're saving money by doing the work yourself, I'm sorry, you're crazy, right? That is not how it works. We all think it does. On paper, it looks wonderful until you're really at the house doing the work and you're saying to yourself, what am I doing laying tile? Why am I painting this house for weekend after weekend? I'm not good at this. Why am I doing this work? And you're going to realize that your time is best spent looking for your next deal or just out living your life while you hire someone else to do that work for you. So when you fix, I want you to be a manager of the deal. I don't want you to be a doer of the deal. Does that make sense? I want you to manage the contractors where you have to have licensed contractors. Make sure you hire licensed contractors. Make sure you get permits on the job because believe it or not, you don't like dealing with code enforcement, but they're going to deal with you if you don't deal with them. And they also help keep your contractors in line because they're doing things compliant and correctly. And frankly, when you go to the closing table, your lawyer or your title company, they're probably going to ask where the permits are for that job. So make sure you do things the right way and build yourself a thriving business based on good, solid business principles. You'll be glad you did. And the bottom line with fixing is how you manage the property will directly determine the amount of profitability on that project. So get really good at managing your contractors in the fix section. And that leads us to the fourth F, which is flip. The flip part is we've done the work, now it's time to sell the property. I don't recommend trying to sell it yourself. That's called a FSBO, FSBO, for sale by owner. It's a lot of work. There's a reason real estate agents get paid for what they do. They have access to a lot more buyers than you do. Now, I would highly recommend that you hire a top agent to sell your properties for you. Negotiate their rate as low as you can get it. It might cost you 5%. It shouldn't cost you more than that. If they want more than that, I'd go find a different agent. But I would make sure you hire a professional agent, get professional pictures done for your property, get that thing listed and sold as soon as humanly possible, and get to the closing table. And that is the flip portion of this. If you keep that very simple framework in front of you, find, fund, fix, and flip, you can do as many deals as you want to do if you just use that same simple framework over and over and over. Don't complicate it. It's not always easy, but it is simple. If you're flipping for the first time, nothing matters more than knowing your numbers, especially how to evaluate a deal. Go watch our video, how to evaluate a flip deal like a pro. I'm going to show you how to evaluate rehab costs, how to determine your ARV, your after repair value, and determine your MAO, your maximum allowable offer that you can offer on any project to remain profitable and avoid surprises and flip with confidence. The link is right here below.